Please, save my son. Jake stood at the edge of the broken forest canopy. His ship was half buried in dirt, and smoke rose from its side. He had crashed only an hour ago after a sudden storm hit him while he was crossing the outer belt of this unknown planet. The trees here were tall and silver, with leaves like glass. The ground felt soft under his boots, and the air was heavy with silence. No birds, no wind, just quiet, like the world was holding its breath. He tried to fix the communication device, but the power cells were damaged. He sighed and rubbed his forehead. His oxygen supply was limited, and the tools were few. He needed to act fast. Then he heard a sound carried by the wind, not from the trees, but deeper inside the forest. A voice, weak, broken, crying. He stood still, listening. Help me. He froze. It was not a trick of the wind. It was a real voice. A woman's voice. Please, someone help me. Jake followed the sound carefully, watching his steps. Every crackle of leaves underfoot felt too loud. The voice led him through twisted roots and glowing moss until he saw her. She was sitting against a tree. Her body was thin, covered in soft purple skin, with markings that looked like fading tattoos. Her clothes were torn. Her face was tired, but her eyes locked on him with fire. Next to her lay a small boy. He was unconscious, barely breathing. His skin was pale, and his chest rose slowly like a dying fire. She spoke again. Please save my son. I have nothing left. He is all I have. Jake stepped forward, hands raised in peace. I'm not here to hurt you, he said softly. What happened? The woman coughed once and looked at her boy. He is poisoned from the water we drank. I didn't know it was tainted. We need a flower, a blue one. It grows deep inside the cave north of here. But I can't go alone. Not with him like this. Jake glanced at the boy. The child's tiny hands were shaking. His lips were dry. The woman looked at Jake again. Her voice cracked. I will do anything if you help me. Anything. Jake looked into her eyes. He saw fear, pain, and a love so deep it pulled at something inside him. What's your name? He asked Myra. She replied, I am the last of my tribe. And he is my son, Leo. Jake knelt beside the boy and placed his hand on the small chest. Heartbeat was faint, but still there. He stood up again and looked around. What's in the cave? Monsters, she said. They guard the flower. They were created during the war, long ago, to protect what remains. Jake frowned. He had no weapons, no armor, just his basic gear and a damaged ship. You don't even know me, he said. Why would you trust a stranger? Myra held her son closer. Because I have no choice. I don't see a soldier. I see someone who still listens to a mother's cry. Jake turned away for a moment, thinking. Then he looked at her again. All right, I'll help you. But we need to move now. Myra's eyes filled with tears. Thank you, Jake lifted Leo into his arms. He was lighter than he looked. His small body limp like a doll. Myra stood slowly, limping from an old wound, but determined. She guided the way into the forest as they walked. Myra spoke quietly. My people lived here before the machines came. The sky burned and the rivers died. We hid and we waited, but they never left. Only a few of us survived. Then sickness came. I lost my mate and my sister. I kept Leo alive with everything I had. But now she looked down at the boy, and her voice broke again. Jake didn't speak. He just walked. He had seen war before. He had seen death. But this felt different. They reached a rocky hill by sunset. The cave entrance was hidden behind thick vines. Myra pulled them aside, revealing a dark hole that breathed cold air. It's in there, she said. We must go before the night beasts wake. Jake nodded. He placed Leo gently on a soft patch of moss and checked his own gear. He had a small flashlight, a heat blade, and a flare gun with one shot left. Stay here with him. I'll go in alone. No, Myra said firmly. I go with you. I know the path. Jake wanted to argue but saw her eyes and said nothing. They entered the cave together. The light from Jake's tool cut through the black showing walls, marked with strange glowing signs. Mira touched them as they passed, whispering old words. Then, a sound came from deeper inside, a slow, heavy breathing. They stopped. Jake raised the blade. Its heat lit the air around them. Something moved in the shadows, a shape too big to be animal, too smooth to be natural. The guardian Mira whispered, "It's awake." Jake stepped forward, his grip tight. The story of saving the child was just beginning, and death was watching from the dark into the cave. Cave was colder the deeper they went. The walls dripped with strange black water, and the ground felt soft and wet under their feet. Jake held the light in one hand and the heat blade in the other. Mira followed behind, watching every step with sharp eyes. The sound came again. A slow, dragging breath, like something very old still alive and waiting. Jake whispered, "Stay close." Mira nodded and pointed toward the right tunnel. "That way," she said. "The flower grows near the inner spring." They turned right and walked carefully. The air grew heavy with mist, and glowing insects danced in the dark. Jake tried to stay calm, but his heart was pounding. He had faced many dangers before, but this was different. He was alone on a strange world with no help, no backup, and carrying the hope of a dying child. They moved deeper until the tunnel opened into a wide chamber. The ceiling rose high and small. Crystals sparkled like stars in the dark. In the center was a pool of water glowing blue, and beside it a single tall plant with large blue petals. Jake took a step forward, but Mira grabbed his arm. "Wait," she said, "it is never alone." Suddenly a shadow moved beside the pool. A tall creature stepped forward, its body made of metal and stone. Its arms were long, and its head shaped like a helmet with no face. Just a red light blinking in the center of its chest. The guardian Mira whispered again, "It does not feel pain. It does not sleep. It only protects." Jake stared at the thing. His light reflected off its surface, and the red light turned toward them. It saw them. "Run!" Mira shouted. Jake did not run. Instead, he raised the blade and moved slowly to the left, trying to draw it away from the flower. The guardian moved fast. Its steps were heavy, shaking the ground. It raised an arm and a blade shot out of it, a glowing red sword made of pure energy. Jake rolled to the side, barely dodging the first strike. He swung his own blade, but it bounced off the metal with a loud crack. Creature turned again, swinging hard. This time Jake jumped back and the sword hit the ground, sending rocks flying. Mira screamed, "Jack, I'm fine." Jake shouted, "Keep moving. Try to get the flower." Mira ran toward the pool. Her feet slipped, but she kept going. The creature turned its head for a moment, then looked back at Jake. Jake ran toward the wall, grabbing a broken crystal, and threw it. The light confused the guardian. For a second, just enough time, Mira reached the flower and pulled it from the root. The glow faded a little, but she held it tight like it was life itself. "Got it," she shouted. "Let's go." Jake yelled, but the guardian blocked the way back. Jake looked at the ceiling. He saw a crack above the creature. "Mira, get down," he shouted. He raised his flare gun, aimed at the weak spot, and fired. Flare hit the ceiling with a burst of fire, and the rocks above cracked and rumbled. Then they fell. A loud crash filled the chamber. Dust and stone covered everything. The guardian was buried under tons of rock. Jake coughed and helped Mira to her feet. "Are you all right?" Her hands shaking, but her eyes were full of fire. "We have it," she said. "We must go back now. Time is running out." They ran back through the tunnel. The sound of falling rocks followed them. But they didn't stop outside the cave. The stars had come out. The night was cold, and the forest was silent. They reached the place where Leo was lying. His skin was even paler now, his breath slower. Mira knelt beside him and crushed the petals between her hands. Mixing them with water from her pouch, she made a soft paste and placed it on his tongue. Please. She whispered, please take it. Please live, Jake. Watched, he felt helpless. This was not a battle he could fight with weapons. Minutes passed, nothing happened. Then Leo coughed, his chest moved faster. His eyes opened a little. Mama, he whispered. Mira broke down in tears, holding him close. Her body shook as she whispered, thank you again and again. Jake sat down beside them. His body hurt from the fight. His hand was bleeding and his leg bruised. But he smiled. He had done something good, something real. But Mira looked up with fear in her eyes. The cure will work, she said. But only if we reach the river by moonrise. It needs to finish in the sacred water, or it will not hold. Jake stood up again, even though his legs shook. Then we move now, he said. He picked up Leo again and nodded to Myra. Let's finish this. Forrest waited in silence as the three of them disappeared into the night, racing against time and fate. You said, Part 3, 1,000 words. Kaleko, or interesting hinachea, or third-person style. Malakani ha, or simple basic English ka use karna haidat. Or underline. Chat GPT said, Part 3, trial by night. The forest was darker, now shadows danced between the trees, and strange sounds echoed in the distance. Jake held Leo tightly in his arms. The boy's breathing was weak but steady. Mira walked beside him, holding the glowing flour mixture in a small stone bowl. How far is the river? Jake asked, his voice low. Not far, Mira said, but we must be careful. The creatures hunt at night. What creatures? The ones that came after the war, Mira whispered. They feed on weakness and fear. They smell blood. Jake looked down at his arm. Blood was dripping from a cut on his hand. He wiped it quickly, but the scent was already in the air. We need to move faster. They pushed through thick vines and wet leaves. Mira guided the way, her eyes scanning every shadow. Every sound made her stop and listen, but she kept going. Suddenly a growl came from the trees. A low, deep sound like a beast waking from sleep. Jake stopped. Mira froze. Then it came out of the dark. A long black creature, its body low to the ground and its mouth full of sharp teeth. Its eyes glowed yellow, and its skin moved like smoke. It looked at them and growled again. Myra stepped in front of Jake, her arms wide. Go back, she shouted. This is not your prey. The creature growled louder. Then two more stepped from the trees, circling them. Jake handed Leo to Myra and pulled out his heat blade. The light from the blade cut the dark, and the creature stopped for a moment. Jake held his ground, his body shaking. He knew he could not fight them all, but he had to try. The first creature jumped forward. Jake swung the blade and hit its side. The beast screamed and fell back, black smoke rising from the wound. But the others charged. Jake swung again, hitting one in the leg, but the third jumped on him, knocking him to the ground. It bit into his shoulder, and he screamed. Mira shouted and threw a burning root she had kept in her pouch. The fire hit the creature's back, and it ran screaming into the trees. Jake lay on the ground, blood running from his arm. Myra helped him up, her hands shaking. Can you walk? I have to, he said through clenched teeth. Took Leo back into his arms. Mira supported his side, and they kept moving. The trees opened ahead, and they saw the river. Moonlight touched the water, and it shone like silver. We're here, Myra said. But we must hurry. They walked into the water, Mira holding the stone bowl. The flour paste glowed brighter as it touched the river. She took some water, mixed it, and gave the rest to Leo. The boy swallowed slowly. His body shook once, then went still. Jake felt fear in his chest. Was it too late? But then Leo took a deep breath, a strong one. His eyes opened fully, and color returned to his face. Mama, he said. Again Mira laughed through tears and hugged him close. You did it, Jake. You saved him. Jake smiled, but then his knees gave out. He fell into the water, breathing hard. Mira caught him. Jake, Jack, I'm fine, he said, but his voice was weak. Blood flowed from his shoulder and his face was pale. Mira looked at the wound and her face turned serious. We need to stop the bleeding. She tore a piece of her dress and tied it around his arm. She pressed the cloth against the wound and held it tight. Jake closed his eyes. Rest now, Mira said. I will watch over you. Leo sat beside him, holding his hand. Jake felt warmth in that touch, not just in the hand but in the heart. For the first time in years he felt like he belonged, like he had done something more than just survive. He had given hope, and in the quiet of the river, with stars above and peace around, the fight was not over. The race against time. The night was not over yet. The stars shone above, but the forest was not quiet. Jake lay on the riverbank, breathing slow and deep. Mira sat beside him, pressing cloth to his wound. Her hands were firm, but gentle. Leo curled up next to them, his small hands still holding Jake's. We can't stay here long, Mira said softly. The forest changes before sunrise. More creatures come. Jake opened his eyes. His body felt heavy. His shoulder burned, but he nodded. I can walk, he said slowly. Mira looked at him with doubt, but she did not argue. She helped him sit up, then stood and took Leo in her arms. We need shelter, she said. There is an old place nearby, one of the ruins from before. Maybe we can hide there till morning. Jake stood with effort. His legs shook, but he stayed up. Let's go. They walked through the trees again. This time slower. Jake leaned on Mira for support. Leo watched the shadows with wide eyes, still weak but awake. After some time they saw it, a broken stone building half covered in moss. It looked like a temple with carvings on the walls and a cracked roof above. Inside was dry and quiet, a place untouched. For years Mira laid Leo on a soft patch of moss and helped Jake sit against the wall. You need rest, she said. Jake shook his head. No, we're not safe yet. You said more creatures come. Yes. Mira said they are not like the ones before. They are worse, bigger, stronger. They come with the light before dawn. Jake looked at the sky. The stars were fading. The edge of the sky was turning gray. Then we don't have much time. Suddenly, a sound echoed through the trees. A howl. Not close, but not far. Mira froze. They found us. Jake looked around. He saw a broken metal spear on the ground near the corner of the ruin. He picked it up and tested its weight. It was old, but still strong. Get behind me, he said. Mira grabbed Leo and moved to the back of the room. Her eyes were wide, but she stayed calm. The howl came again, louder this time. Then another from the other side. Jake gripped the spear tight. His heart beat fast, but his mind stayed clear. He had faced worse before. He had fought machines with no mercy. He had survived war and fire, but this time he was not fighting for himself. A shadow moved near the entrance. A large shape stepped into the light. It was taller than a man, with 4 legs and glowing red eyes. Its mouth opened wide, showing rows of teeth. It saw Jake and growled. Jake raised the spear. Come on then. Beast charged. Jake stepped aside and slammed the spear into its side. The metal cut deep, but the creature didn't stop. It slammed into him, knocking him into the wall. Jake grunted in pain but held the spear tight. He pulled it out and swung again, hitting the beast in the head. The creature screamed and stumbled back. Then another one entered. Mira shouted. Jake turned to see the second beast rushing in. Mira grabbed the stone and threw it, hitting the creature in the eye. It roared and turned toward her. Jake ran forward and stabbed it in the back. The spear went in deep. The creature fell with a loud crash. Jake fell to one knee, breathing hard. Mira ran to him. You're bleeding again. Jake looked at her and smiled a little. He looked at Leo, who was watching with wide eyes. Don't worry, kid, we're still here. Then the sky began to glow with the first light of dawn. The creatures outside howled again, but this time they didn't come closer. They fear the sun. Mira said they will go now. Jake sat back against the wall. His body was shaking and his arm burned. But he smiled. We made it. Myra looked at him. You saved us again. Jake shook his head. No, we did it together. Leo stood up and walked to Jake. He placed his small hand on Jake's arm and closed his eyes. A warm light spread from the boy's hand. Jake gasped as the pain faded. The wound closed slowly like water washing over fire. What Mira said. Her eyes wide. I don't know, Jake whispered. But I think your son just saved me. Leo smiled weakly and fell into his mother's arms. Myra held him close and looked at Jake with tears in her eyes. You gave everything to help us, she said. We will never forget this. Jake looked at the boy, then at Mira. He nodded. You're not alone anymore. The sun rose and light filled the ruin. The danger was gone. One life for another. Morning light covered the forest like gold. The trees shimmered as the wind moved through their leaves. Birds sang above. For the first time since Jake had arrived, the world felt peaceful but tired, like it had survived a long storm inside. The old ruin. Jake sat near the entrance, watching the sunlight break through the cracks in the wall. His arm no longer hurt. The wound was gone completely. The only thing left was a faint scar, and the memory of pain. Leo was asleep again, wrapped in a blanket of soft moss. Mira sat close to him, gently brushing his hair back. Her face was calm, but her eyes were still red from tears. He's strong, Jake said quietly. Myra nodded. He is more than I ever knew. Jake looked at her. Your people had powers long ago, she said, before the war, before the machines. We were healers and dreamers. But when the war came, we used our gifts to fight. Many died. The rest forgot what we were. Now only Leo remains, and you and just his mother, she said. But he is the last hope. Jake stood slowly. His legs still hurt, but he could move. He looked around the ruin. This place must have meant something once. It was a temple, she said softly. A place of peace. Jake smiled. Fitting that we found it now. Mira turned to him. You could have left me that day. You could have ignored my voice. I almost did, Jake said. But something in your voice made me stop. I don't know why. Myra look down. You saved us. Jake walked to Leo and knelt beside him. He brushed the boy's forehead gently. I didn't do it alone. You fought a guardian creature, protected us from the beasts, and carried my son when your own body was breaking, Mira said. You gave everything. Jake looked at her. I didn't know what I was looking for when I came to this world. I thought I was running from war, from pain, from everything. And now, I think I found something better, something worth staying for. Myra looked into his eyes. You would stay, if you'll have me. Myra took his hand and placed it over her heart. Then she smiled softly. You already belong. Leo woke up slowly and looked around. His eyes met Jake's, and he smiled. Jake smiled back. Morning, kid. Leo sat up and held Jake's hand. Thank you. No need, Jake said. Just glad you're all right. They left the ruin that day. The sun was warm, and the path back through the forest felt different, less dangerous. More alive. Animals came out from hiding. Flowers bloomed where ash once covered the ground. The forest was healing slowly, just like them. They reached a quiet valley where water ran clear and fruit trees grew tall. Mira said it was once her people's home. Now it would be home again. Jake helped rebuild the old huts, fixed the broken tools, and taught Mira how to use some human tech. He showed Leo how to make fire without stones, and how to use a simple scanner to find clean water in return. Mira taught him how to listen to the wind, how to track by stars, and how to heal with forest plants. They laughed together, worked together, lived together. Days passed. One night, Jake sat by the fire, Leo asleep in his lap. Mira sat beside him, leaning on his shoulder. I was just a soldier, he said. I thought I had nothing left. Now you have a family. she said. Jake looked at the stars above and nodded. For the first time in his life, he felt complete. Not because of a mission, not because of victory, but because he had chosen to help, and that choice had given him everything. In a galaxy filled with war and silence, one human had listened to the cry of a mother, and that had changed everything. Forever.